Am I live? Am I live? Isaac, help me. Am I live?
You're more live than Joe Biden was.
This is what you get with the 5G50 stream. It's all the topical things. One person's watching. Excellent.
We're coming in hot.
Sorry I'm late. I'm a technological absolute nightmare. So here we are. RageCon. I forgot my webcam, so I would pan, but I forgot my webcam, so I'm not going to pan.
Not worth the risk.
So Isaac, tell us why. Why are you at RageCon?
I'm at RageCon because I felt like you hadn't gotten the full U.S. experience last time you came to Reno, and I thought
so. I needed you.
You needed a Sherpa, but like an indigenous American Sherpa, but not that kind of indigenous because I'm Israeli.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so give us a rundown of your opinions of the show.
So I got to say, RageCon is a great local con. It's got plenty of space for gaming in a really comfortable hotel with the convention center and the hotel attached. And it seems to have some very nice people. It's got a decent library. I would return. If I were here for gaming, I would return. I also want to just point out that the humidity here is like negative 800. I'm a raisin. I'm a shriveled prune. I feel like. Did you watch the whole Third Body Problem?
I read the books.
You read the books, so I'm one of those floppy, dehydrated shells of a thing. But it's great for my skin.
The books get progressively more awful as you go through them.
They do get progressively more hopeless.
The third one might be the most annoying book I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, fair. But I don't want to spoil it. I just want to say that if you're watching it on Netflix, there's also a Chinese YouTube version, and you might prefer that one.
Is it better?
It's better in that it's less Americanized in an appealing way.
So we're talking about the three-body problem. So
do we have any callers on the Third Body Problem?
So what have you been up to since you've been in Reno?
So I got into Reno late last night and caught up with my roommate, Kathleen Mercury. Hopefully we'll get her on the show in just a bit. And then rolled in the morning, got an enormous breakfast for no apparent reason. And then started doing the thing. Started teaching Tier Nanog, doing some demoing of that, doing a little bit of Proto Spiel. We're actually sitting here in the Proto Spiel area, surrounded by the future hits of board gaming. Yeah. And I was told that my game had a lot of promise, which is not what you want to hear on a late stage playtest, as it turns out.
So I playtested my game a couple of times today, and I was happy to say that it wasn't a complete and utter fucking disaster.
Yeah, it seemed as though people were genuinely engaged and were unoffended by the content.
Which is not my intention. My intention is to offend as many people as possible at all times. But yeah, it was all right. So I've been here now for 3 days. Finally, I think I've shaken the jet lag. And I've been at Jonathan Pack's Desert
I think his full name is Jonathan Packathan.
That's true, yeah. And so I've been facing the desert. We've been doing band practices. I came here yesterday to the buffet, which is decadent and American.
Oh my God. Is that Isaac and Ben Maddox?
Yeah, it is.
Straight from Germany?
Not straight from Germany, no.
Designer of Tier
There's no direct flight.
It is the games that I wanted to get, but I did not. Hello, fans.
You see, the thing is, right, I've done streams at conventions which was entirely dominated by the nasal canal of Uli Blennerman. There's nothing you can do that will rival how disruptive that was, unless you get your cock out.
I just want to say that all the fans of 5 Games for Doomsday, I think you're great. Ben is less great, and Isaac is dope. Thank you. Enjoy.
That was almost scripted.
Yeah.
Fantastic
Kabuki
content.
Kid says, never been to Reno, but been to Las Vegas. Insanely dry there. Yeah.
It's
That's
true.
why I'm drinking.
Well, it's a health issue.
Yes. So, yeah, and I played a game of Through the Ages with some noobs who'd never played it before. I explained the rules.
You bent space and time because you explained the rules and played the first two ages of Through the Ages in
3 players
under 120 minutes.
No. It was 3 hours.
You were done. Your slot was it was 3 to 7, and you were done by 6. You were done Like, I was astonished.
Yeah, and it was good as well. And what's really good is that they were super into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've done a through the ages conversion.
Did you break them over a barrel? I mean, what were the scores like?
We didn't really score.
That's for the best.
So I mean, the intention was just to play the game. I knew we weren't going to finish, so I was being nice. And I mean, I'm not very good at it anyway, but I was being nice and
trying to welcome them into the world of Through the Ages, because
Exactly.
it can get pretty culty in there.
Yeah.
I have spent far too much of my time playing Through the Ages on the app, but Ben doesn't consider that actually playing.
No,
the
I
game.
don't think it is playing it.
Yeah. No, it's sort of like the way that Christians don't consider Mormons Christians.
Exactly.
But Mormons think they're Christians.
Yeah. So I'm hosting. I don't think apps are valid at all, and I'm hosting a panel on how to app your board game tomorrow.
So what's your contribution likely to be?
So tell us about apps then, and then I'm just going to sit there.
I think it would be great if after the person who explains how wonderful it is to be able to offer accessibility and convenience, and the digitization doesn't just mimic but really adds, if you then came up and said that you think that every board game app should be remotely deleted from everyone's phone, as though it were an unwanted U2 track on your iTunes.
So
that's a reference for you 50-year-olds.
I got a few of the apps at one point. I got Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne, and I played them a few times, and I thought, you know what, these aren't. They're not board games, are they? They're not board games. The USP of board games is that you get to sit down and you get to interact with other people. The smells and the sights and the annoyances. Playing on your app. The thing is, there are loads of app games that are just designed to be those, and so better.
Well, the irony is that I just tested in the table behind us a board game designed around an app game. So it's sort of meant to be the board game version of an app game. So I sort of feel like the Ouroboros, right? We're like eating ourselves at this point. But yeah, out of that encounter came Corey Thompson, who says, "Oh, I've got to introduce you to this wonderful person who makes board game apps." I was like, "Oh, what kind?" He's like, like Dominion.
Yeah.
So my unpublished board game version of an app game, we're now going to have a meeting about making it an actual app.
And so do you think it should be a board game before it's an app?
I don't think it should exist at all.
Right.
I mean, given the feedback I got, still got some work to do. But that's the funny thing, right? Like, sometimes you back into things. Sometimes, the concept sells itself and then everyone's committed to it. Now everyone's got to figure out how to fill in the details, which is largely how we wrote the Building Blocks book.
So it was really interesting with my playtest today, because I playtested at Lariacon and did not get. It's not that I got bad feedback. It's just you can see the deadness behind people's eyes, right? And then I playtested a few weeks afterwards, and then I implemented me and my design partner. I say I because he's away, so I'm taking all the credit.
Well, and we're going to murder him when the game comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And I playing it today, I really thought, I don't think it's finished by any stretch of the imagination, but it feels like it has the potential to be finished, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had the privilege of not playing it a second time.
Right.
But no, I actually enjoyed watching other folks play it, because there were some changes in the between the two versions, but there were not a lot. There were just a couple of changes, and like ripples in a pond, you could see how those changes addressed some of the challenges that you were encountering. Right. And I mean, to me, that's part of the magic of design. You make one small change, and it reshapes how people encounter the game.
Right.
So I think you're well on your way to a non-embarrassing prototype.
Yeah, and I really feel like I want to get it signed now.
Yeah, and in some years you will.
Fuck you. Right, Vamp. I'm going to go and find some people.
Right on. So I wish Steve Cyrek was here. He's so good at vamping. Well, Kabuki Kid is on, and he's been pouring content in. Let's see if I can run the thing. Let's see. Yes, Kabuki Kid, New Jersey native, much more used to humidity. So it is 90 degrees when Ben and I walked out to dinner, and 90 degrees translates to like 32 degrees Celsius for, I don't know, the non-New Jersey person who is listening or watching. And 90 degrees with zero humidity, it's almost cold. Like a light jacket wouldn't have been amiss. So a very, very different place that we're experiencing here than my now native North Carolina, a place where you need a rain jacket because otherwise you'll just be permanently damp. Right on. Well, what else can I tell you about Reno and about RageCon that you might find interesting? I'll tell you one thing. It was incredibly generous of the con to certainly invite Ben to fly him over from Germany. But at the last minute, I also became a special guest. And so I'm going to show you something. I know this is great audio for folks who are just listening on audio, but I'm going to show you on the stream the picture I took to send to my wife because I just wanted to have this role to be recognized in this way because Ben was and I wasn't, which is that I am, in fact, a special guest in the program.
Yeah, me too.
That's right, in the program. So I feel truly honored. But here's the best part. I may be known, as I'm reading from the bio that I did not write.
Right.
You may also know Isaac from the groundbreaking book, Building Blocks of Tabletop Game Design, an Encyclopedia of Mechanisms, which he authored with Jeff Engelstein.
So the point is, it's groundbreaking because if you drop it on a paving slab, it'll crack the paving slab.
That also is true, but I don't know why it can't have two meanings. That's just their cleverness in writing great copy.
What's the time in Britain right now? I'm wondering why there's no one watching this, and it must be because most of my streamers are European.
It's like 4 a.m. in Britain.
It's 6:30 in Britain at the moment. So Engelstein lives a town over from Kabuki Kid.
That's right. That's a very nice town, by the way. I've been there. Been to Jeff's house. He hosts a phenomenal annual gaming event. And I don't know. Honestly, I could do worse than being the Garfunkel to his Paul Simon on this book.
Have you made loads of money from it?
Loads. More than from any of my board games.
Right.
So, load.
So, Tea and a Nog, though, you must be a millionaire from Tea and a Nog right now.
Well, it's certainly raining pennies right now. Tea and a Nog sold out at Origins on the very first day. I assume that's because Mark brought like 4 copies.
Right.
But, that's how you play the game. You bring the number of copies. I learned this from the Catan boys, who told me that the right number of copies to bring to a con is when you only take 1 copy home. Because that's how you know that you brought enough that you've fully met the demand. Because if you sell out before then, you think, well, I might have sold another copy if I had brought it. So selling out on day 1, very flattering, but man, couldn't we have brought a few more copies?
Yeah. So it sounds great when you say sold out, but you need some extra information to quantify how cool that was.
Look, it is cool, even if I don't actually know how many copies Mark brought, but it was one of their featured games, and I've worked the booth often enough to know that it's probably 100 to 200 copies.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because Origins is a huge convention. There are hundreds of games debuting there. And Tierno sold out in part
for your sheep, baby.
It sold out in part because of the dickheads who helped thumb it on the Gen Con preview, on the Origins preview on BGG. So we were one of the top 10 most anticipated games.
I never realized that was actually an effective thing.
It turns out that it is, and so to all the dickheads, please repeat this for Gen Con. We're going to try and sell out there too. We're going to try and bring a lot more copies. But yeah, it's been great. It's been like the most frothy launch since my wedding night, really.
Right. I feel quite nauseous now. Nauseous or nauseated?
I meant champagne-wise. I don't know what you were thinking.
Sexual intercourse.
I haven't had any.
No. So were your children parthenogenesis then?
Listen, there's no other reason that I could imagine. My wife is obviously fully faithful to me in every way.
Right, exactly.
So presumably, and my guess is that they're very, very similar to her only.
Can you go and drum
Yeah,
up some more guests? And
Absolutely. Why don't I clear some space? I understand we have a guest, and I'd like to.
And I'll speak to Alex.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, walk through like this.
Oh, it looks busy.
All
So
right.
here we are. We are at RageCon, and we are here with Alex Flagg,
Yes.
2Gs,
Mhm.
who is the owner, proprietor, guru of
Crafty Games.
So,
LLC.
so give us a lowdown of Crafty, who they are, what they do.
So we are been around for about 20 years, but we are a board game publisher specializing in kind of authentic Euros. Just
Okay.
trying to like take Euros
So
and
what
elevate
does
them a little bit.
authentic mean?
Authentic means we want to be a little more authentic to the place rather than just taking a name of an exotic place and then slapping
Okay.
some beige art on it with a dour man and in period garb staring at you from the cover.
So you want sort of real sort of connection with the places.
At least try.
So you don't want to appropriate, like, I don't know what, Britain for your designs.
I absolutely am going to appropriate Britain. Look at me.
Are you any relation to Randall Flagg?
Only in spirit.
Okay.
Rick Flag, not nearly cool enough. No.
Black Flag?
Yes. Henry
So-
and I.
So carry on. Crafty.
Yeah. So Crafty. So we're trying to take the classic style Euro, the thing that would have had the Kalis guy in the front back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's say like if you're going to set it in Indonesia, can we work with people from Indonesia
Right.
or talk to people who know how Indonesia is and like can tell us more about it, and then maybe we can get extra step in like put Indonesian rules in there so people in Indonesia can try it out, and it's really worked. Like I think I've learned a lot out of it, and I get a lot out of it. Because I came from a school where anthropology was a big deal,
Yeah.
and I'm a sociology student and stuff like that, and so like these were all really important to me as a person, and so it's been really great to like work with these folks that we would have never met any other way.
And so what's your path into being a diabolical gaming professional?
Well, I actually that same school I went to was 20 miles from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And so I actually went to school with Luke Gygax.
Right.
And this school had been for a long time had inherited a lot of like cast-offs from TSR back in the day. And I was there in the 90s. So there's
So by
Roebling
school, do you mean university?
Beloit, yes, Beloit College.
Okay.
Yes. So Beloit College, woo, go Turtles.
Oh, turtles. Right?
Yeah, the Turtles. Yes. So anyway, I met a ton of people there, and we actually had a gaming house, like a special interest house, but for gamers.
Oh, okay.
And it was BISFA, Beloit Science Fiction Fantasy Association.
So I mean, what sort of shadow did Lake Geneva Gygax D&D cast over?
None.
it?
In the mid to late 90s, not much.
Right.
TSR was greatly diminished at the time. I knew Luke, of course I knew his name. And we would run a little tiny show, though. This is the funny part. Like, we run this little tiny show every year as part of our thing. We had a budget, and so we'd have a little con, and we have people, and we special guests, and we fly somebody in from White Wolf or something like that. And then, like, occasionally there'd be this old guy who'd like come in and look around. So he's like, "Wait a minute, you look kind of like Gary," and then he'd be like, "He'd gone."
Right.
But the thing is, a lot of the TSR people were still there, and we were the closest thing they had to local shows. So they'd roll in. So we would have. Oh gosh, why am I forgetting her name? The woman who wrote Dragonlance.
Okay.
Margaret. John Appin. I'm sorry, my names are starting to slip. Anyway, the author of Dragonlance would just come and talk. It's fun, it's a local thing. And people like Matt Forbeck, famous role-playing game designer, just did the Marvel superheroic role-playing. It's just been killing it.
Monty Cook? Did you ever get him there?
No, I don't think so. Monty was not quite Monty who he is now. Like, he was still a freelancer and stuff like that. He was actually, at the time, he would have been out in Seattle working on 3rd edition D&D.
Right, okay.
But Matt Forbeck is from Beloit.
Margaret Weiss.
Margaret Weiss, thank you very much. Cheers. So Margaret Weiss would just show up. So it was great. I met all these people, made all these connections. It's like, and then we came out, and then a number of people in my class, like cohort, a number of us went on into the game industry quite accidentally, just really talented people.
So you were originally an RPG designer, right?
Yes, that was my passion. Like I wanted to be a comic book illustrator, and author. That was my real first nerdy love. And then I went to college, and I was like, well, these games are kind of fun, and I like writing them, and I like playing them and doing those stories. And so, why not? Why not? And so I was going early days of the internet. I was like, I'll just self-publish something, slap it up on the internet, see how it goes. And my friend, Will Hindmarch, who basically dropped out of college, but then went straight into the game industry, and just really made a name for himself. He's brilliant, freaking brilliant guy. He went out there and he's like, oh, there's this new thing they're doing, D20, and it's kind of like a license. You don't need to try your own system. Just try theirs, see what happens. So I made this little spy game. It was called 10,000 Bullets. It was based on, I was watching a lot of crime movies, right? So Hong Kong movies. So I was like, what if I took D&D and just warped it into this thing? And then, and I was tinkering with it. People were enjoying it. I was like, I'd self-publish and put it on a blog. That was the era. And maybe that'll help me get a freelance gig. And then I saw, not a month later, Alderac Entertainment Group just drops the thing. Here's our preview of our new game, Spycraft. And it thinks about the game exactly the same way. So I write them cold. Hey, I have this thing I've been working on. Could I make a mod? And I was working. So at this point, I was just out of college, and I had been kind of stringing for like little video game companies because Counter-Strike had just come out. Okay. And so a lot of people were making mods. And so what I did is I decided, people were assholes and that they're these climbers and whatever. And so I was like, I don't want to work in video games. Maybe I'll go back to RPGs. Yeah. But what if I made a mod for your game, your RPG, and I'll just do it and put it up on the internet. And the guy who wrote back was named Patrick, and he's like, sure, yeah, why not? This future business partner, Patrick. Yeah. And it kind of blew up in the AG offices and started making a logo for me. They all were like, oh, this is so cool. This is going to be awesome. Because we're all about the same age. Yeah. And so then I went to Gen Con to present the game. I said, I think I've looked at the Spycraft published. I said, I think I've kind of looked at your game and deprogrammed it. Here's how I think some material would work. And I shoved them basically a source book's worth of material, all rules. And they're like, oh, well, would you just like to freelance instead? Sure. And that's how I started.
So what have Crafty published for the board gaming world, and what's coming up?
Right. So so we kind of broke into the scene. So Kevin Wilson was back in the day was a role-playing game designer at AG, and that's how I met him. And then we had him work on our first title. That was Mistborn Houseware, a negotiation game based around the Brendan Sanderson's Mistborn universe. And then we kind of started pivoting into Euros. So our recent release is we released Dollars to Donuts from Flat Out Games. Yeah. We released Abstract Academy from Flat Out Games. Then we got and we met a guy named Randy Flynn. He hadn't been published yet. Yeah. And so we bought this game called Tabriz from him. And so then flash forward, Randy goes off, makes Cascadia with Flat Out Games, wins the SDJ, and then that's the next title we got coming out from him. So that game is close by. We just released Buru, kind of our first kind of classic Euro, that authentic Euro I was talking about. Yeah. That released back in April. So that's out. Tabriz is coming in October. And the most immediate thing is our new game, our first localized game, Sardegna, which is actually Stefan Dora's Creta. It's a re-implement of that game, but
with the magnetic-y things.
Right, I've got it right over here. It's beautiful little game.
He'll be back in a minute. I'm going to vamp into the mic now.
Korean studio called Plady.
Yeah.
And so they do all their games are these little tiny like kind of oink style boxes, but they're all magnetic. So the entire game unrolls out like so. It's hard to show there in flat, but then,
especially because my camera's crap.
Right, and then whoops. But then this is a magnetic board that flips together and magnetizes like so, something like that. And then you got a lot of pieces. And so this is a great little area majority game that actually has kind of it's kind of the original implementation of the Concordium card mechanic. So yeah, it's great. Plays in about 45 minutes. This game will be coming out in. We're going to debut it at Gen Con, and then it'll be out in stores in probably September.
And so you'll be kickstarting a very exciting game next year?
Yes. Oh, the one subtle nudge, nudge. Yes. So we also are here because we're talking with Johnny Pack about his upcoming game, Knights of the Round Table. So you might have seen this on BGG a little while ago when it kind of hit the top of the hotness. People are sort of surprised about, oh, really? Yeah, so this is an absolutely beautiful game. Still kind of working on the rules and what would I tag it. But it's kind of a I split you choose at the core of it, but about exploring Arthurian mythos. You know, you're going to send your guys out to do the Grail quest. You're going to send them to the battle to defend the lands, and then also to build up Camelot throughout the course of the game.
Thing is, that's all well and good, but that wasn't what I was talking about, Alex.
Oh, really? I mean,
You played a prototype today at the convention.
Oh, that's right.
That you're going to sign for incredible riches.
I just decided to just give all the profits to the author. It's so
Yeah.
brilliant. It's brilliant. It
Brilliant.
involves keys.
Keyboards, yeah.
Keyboards.
Yeah.
Even
Not
better.
just the keys. You get the whole
multiple
keyboard.
syllables of
Yeah.
keys. Right. And there was key puller. What do you call those tools? Key pullers?
Yeah, keycap pullers and switch
Keycap
pullers, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I won the game, so obviously it's brilliant.
Yeah. So it's live. Crafty Games are going to publish my game.
That's right. Look for it. What's it called?
Group buy.
Group buy.
I think I need to work on the title.
I think you need to work on the title.
Anyway, Alex Flagg, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
So Isaac's found someone else.
Come do. Oh, Aldo.
Aldo.
Come on. Come bullshit with Ben.
That's what the show's called, Bullshit with Ben.
Hey, so my name's Aldo. I run cons, and I'm probably Italian, and I sell games. Aldo, do you want to get in here, or you want me to keep going?
Look, you can say whatever you want. Read my Wikipedia.
Aldo, please take a seat.
Okay.
Don't listen to this troll.
I'm not a troll. I'm trying to be honest.
4chan man, they call it. So I'm here with Aldo, who is on the board of Gamma.
How'd you know?
Because people tell me.
Oh my god.
You worked for, what was it, Isaac? You told me. Impressions.
Actually owned it, but that's
Owned
okay.
and have retired, I've heard. On the
Not really.
ludicrous profits.
Not really that much.
Yes, the first question is, why are you at Rage?
Because it's local to me. So come hang out and play with games with some of my friends, helping out selling some games at a exhibit booth.
And are there any business opportunities here, or is this pure?
Well, to add to some things that I do,
Yeah.
I'm co-owner of KublaCon.
Right.
So obviously I want to run into people for KublaCon and promote that.
That's California, right?
Yes, it is. San Francisco Bay Area. So we just started KublaCon Fall. That's going to be a second KublaCon in November, Veterans Day weekend down in San Jose area.
So I've got a question. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I love attending conventions.
Okay.
And I have a great time. And I sort of do stuff like this, which is very easy.
Okay.
And we were talking about people who run these conventions. It seems like a bloody nightmare. A lot of work. It seems exhausting. And I can't imagine that it's a massive earner. And so what is the attraction of running a con?
I mean, it's the excitement. I mean, if you love this hobby, which certainly we all should, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's entertainment. We should all be able to go there and have a good time and just have fun. And you're with all your friends and, quite honestly, the community. I mean, I was going to KublaCon when it was called Manifest in the 90s. You know, and I was exhibitor there for doing my distribution company and all that other stuff. And now a co-owner of KublaCon, and it's just passion. It's joy. It's
so
fun.
As a co-owner, do you sit at the registration desk? Do you deal with the annoying people asking you stupid questions?
No, I do. I do a lot of the business stuff. So
Okay.
since I worked in the industry for so long, I deal with like exhibitors, sponsors, special guests, the money, basically. So my partner, Mike, he handles all the hotel setup, events, registration, a lot of that stuff. So, which he's been doing for a while.
So you've worked in distribution, and I was
Yes.
talking to people in the industry about this a lot recently. What impact has companies doing direct sales had on distribution, and how important I asked this question, and I don't know the answer, but it was like, is the brick and mortar store in any way relevant to the industry anymore?
Yes, absolutely. And that's, I would say, not only a mistake of a lot of people, but an advantage a lot of people have as well, is, as a business or an opportunity.
That is the size
That's
of my
awesome.
head.
That's awesome. Brick and mortar game stores should be about the experience.
Right.
Like, right, you can go on Amazon and buy a game for cheap, but there's no experience, right? You just buy it, right? So game brick and mortar retailers, they don't want to really attract those people. Those are the price people. They just go into the store, maybe play something at board game night, don't buy anything because they see something and go, I can just get on Amazon.
Yeah.
So a board game store, one of the things I did in distribution was advocate that all the time, is that if you're going to work with brick and mortars, you got to give those brick and mortars something extra to give the consumers an experience and a reason to walk in. Board game night, D&D Adventures League, Friday Night Magic, those are the easy ones.
Yeah.
But if you're having flea markets, ding and dent sales, mini conventions, I don't know, pizza parties, whatever it may be, but something to build a community around your brick and mortar game store is what I've always encouraged game publishers to do when I work with them on the wholesale side.
And so, I do media around board games.
Sure.
And so I'm not involved with the business side.
Yeah, I'm the back end business to business.
Right.
So I don't know many of the media people. I mean, I know like Will and a couple others, but yes, I never got into the forefront of the media people, like to talk about you want to talk to the publishers, you want to talk to whatever. I'm the back end guy.
But of course, all of this is fascinating. The way games get from warehouses to people's hands is the lifeblood of the industry.
Yes, that was my job. Yes.
And so I talk to publishers about costs and how much you sell to distributors for, and what the markups are.
That's everything I did. Yes.
Direct sales.
Yeah.
And so, as a distributor, what is your view on publishers doing direct sales through the internet, through Amazon?
Well,
are they? Is that antithetical to?
No, not at all. I mean, it's why leave money on the table?
Right.
I mean, I always tell anybody I'm just like brick and mortar, distribution, online, conventions, like anywhere that, Kickstarter, GameFound, whatever, any spoke in the wheel to make you some money. Like you even have the RPG companies that make revenue streams off of Fantasy Grounds and Roll20, right? Pick up anything, right? Digital rights, whatever it may be. So, I mean, don't leave money on the table. At least that's my personal take on it.
So it was really interesting when COVID happened.
Yeah.
There was talk about, this is going to murder the game industry. And then you had that first year where it just went, it hockey sticks,
it was
right?
Awesome.
What has been the aftershocks of COVID on the game industry now? We're sort of 2 or 3 years out of the pandemic.
So absolutely. So I just did this at a seminar at our Gamma Expo, which highlighted kind of the state of the game industry. I did it at the recent KublaCon last month as well. And the biggest problem is the flood of product.
Right.
I mean, if you heard some of the quotes about things like 1,000+ releases of games at Essen alone,
it's 1,200, 1,400.
Yeah, it's some number.
Yeah.
1,000 being released through distribution every month, and then you have, what was it? A friend of mine told me it's something like, don't quote me, forgive me, people. It's something like at any given time on any day, you can go on Kickstarter and there's 200 to 300 game campaigns running.
That's insane.
Tabletop. So if you think about, you're talking thousands of new game releases a year. So right now, the biggest problem that you have in the game industry is this flood of product. But guess what? What do you think of as a consumer? You're like, I've got a flood of product. Like you're really like smiling, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about warehouses, staffing, distribution, data for all the retail choices out there, you have a lot of games that don't get found, right? 3,000 games a month, 2,000, whatever the number is. You have such a breadth. Like you have to be a AAA title to even be noticed.
Right.
If you're not AAA, I mean, you're just, So, I mean, I worked with a lot of middle tier companies that turned into decent sized companies for the wholesale side. And just to let you know, I wasn't specifically a distributor. I was what's called a consolidator, which is a coined phrase. Like you're a middleman doing sales and warehousing and marketing and a whole bunch for game publishers. So like I worked with Slugfest Games since Red Dragon and 2, for example. So like for ages, Joseph Goodman Games, Chris Birch at Modifius. I worked with Isaac at Cephalofair Gloomhaven.
Okay.
When he first had Forge War.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we were just that back end. It was our job just to get it to the distributors, sell to distributors, support the retailers, do all that B2B side.
So the big thing that happened so I started gaming around 2012.
Okay.
And the big development over this sort of 14 years or so was Asmodee, the phenomenon of Asmodee.
Yeah.
And then we've seen the takeover by Embracer Group, and then we've seen the leverage debt on Asmodee.
Yes.
If Asmodee goes under tomorrow,
They won't.
They won't.
Anyway, yeah.
Hypothetically.
Okay.
What is the effect on the industry, do you think?
Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know the percentages, but I at least know for the little corner of the world that I dealt with was one of the distributors said to me once, and it was when I was getting a freaking ego way too early on in my career. And he kind of put my place. He goes, Aldo, if you went out of business today, like you're like 0.9% of our business. It's cool, whatever.
Right.
Obviously Magic the Gathering's huge, D&D, all that other stuff. But I mean, sure, if Asmodee went out of business, I mean, probably a lot of their studios would just take over their properties back, for example.
Right.
But even then, if you had some of the games lost, the rights would just go back to the designers. The good would filter down to somebody else. Somebody would jump on wanting Catan, wanting, whatever else. So I don't think it'd affect the industry that much. It'd probably filter out a lot of crap, actually.
Right.
I mean, like I said, we're flooded in the industry.
Yeah.
And little Johnny, who's doing a Kickstarter, is just as much to blame for that flood as Asmodee releasing how many games, a month as well. So I don't know. I don't think, I mean, maybe if Wizards of the Coast went out, but somebody would get the D&D license and Magic and things. Somebody would pick up the slack. There's enough big players now and enough connections because we're still a cottage industry with a community.
Right.
And people. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not some...
How is board gaming, tabletop gaming, managed to remain... Now, this might be incredibly naive, but from what I see, the interactions I've had, remain so cordial amongst competitors?
I don't know. We're just kind of such a fun group, really, in the end. Sure, there's some bad actors, here and there, but bald actors. I said bad actors, not bald actors. So there are some bad actors, but overall, I swear, I mean, we're playing games here.
Yeah.
This is not nuclear physics or something. I mean, it's supposed to be fun and entertaining.
The video game industry is a shark tank.
So
right?
If you want to go farther back, before I started in board game and tabletop, I worked video game industry for years, back when like the Genesis and the SNES, that just, and the first Sony PlayStation was coming out in 3DO. And it was pretty brutal. You weren't friends really with like Sega and Nintendo were not friends. You worked at Sega and somebody worked at Nintendo or Sony or whatever. It's kind of weird. But yeah, the hobby game industry, and a lot of times we just don't care. We love the hobby.
So here in Proto Spiel, I'm sure there's other conventions that have much bigger Proto Spiels, gathering of friends, all of this sort of stuff.
Kubla
Con,
Proto Spiel.
You see people from competing publishing companies playing each other's games and giving tips on how to make competitors' games better. That seems, I think it's wonderful, but it's fucking nuts, right?
I mean, as you said, I don't think there's a real answer, except the fact that we just like to have fun, really, is what it is. I don't know. It's entertainment industry. You shouldn't take it that. I mean, the movie industry takes themselves very seriously and all that, but I don't know. We're just the game industry. I mean, we're playing games. We're here to have fun.
Sure.
I mean, it's fun. It's escapism. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, after all this time or, whatever. I just, I love everybody. Again, few bad actors, a few people that are just, I don't know. It's just, I'm mumbling now, but
so
we're just a good bunch.
One final question before I let you go. As a gamer,
okay,
how happy are you? Because you talked about the flood of games.
Oh, yeah.
How happy are you with the quality of games on offer in 2024?
Well, the market, did that. Well, Kickstarter did it, really. Kickstarter raised the bar where when people were able to offer all these improvements in the game and getting handed more money to say, oh, you're going to give me an extra $10,000 for my game? That's great. I'm going to make it thicker chipboard, better dice, So, I mean, quite honestly, Kickstarter did raise the bar for making game quality, even art for that matter,
Yeah.
pieces, boxes, whatever you want to call it. It raised the bar big time. So we as consumers, we're actually in a second renaissance, because pre-COVID, we were already in a renaissance. If you
Right.
don't know that,
Right.
like if you don't know, like Will Wheaton doing his tabletop thing,
Yeah.
inspiring, that was all part of that, that push there for that renaissance. Then COVID happened. We were in a double renaissance. So, I mean, we've gotten just spiraled out of control, right? The quality of these games and the innovations in cardboard and wood and things like that. You're like, what? Really? They're doing that? You know, even stupid things as 3D chipboard being put together to have a tree in the middle or something. So we've really done, I think we've done well. I say the industry, I think the industry's done well by the consumer, and the consumers reacted going, this is a really great experience.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to be on my phone by myself.
Right. I can sit around a table.
Sit around a table
with people I have barely concealed contempt for.
Yeah, and there are so many people that, I mean, now coming to all the conventions, they're friends. I talk to them outside the industry. We play games online together, you know, D&D groups, whatever it may be. So,
have you got anything to pimp before I let you go?
Anything to pimp? No, I mean, I've already said KublaCon a few times, so I shouldn't say it anymore.
Go to KublaCon if you're in California. If you're rich enough to live in the Bay Area, go to KublaCon.
Excellent. Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to go and find someone else.
There you go. Enjoy.
Isaac, bam.
You guys are so funny. Thank you.
Well, here I am all alone. Now it's my show. But I do want to pull up from what
So
to...
I'll leave Isaac to interrogate.
Now I get to interrogate. This is very exciting, ladies and gentlemen. Pals, gals, 9 binary pals.
Keep your eyes on that.
All right.
Yeah. We're keeping a close eye on everything Kabuki Kid has said, and also the battery level. But this is Kathleen Mercury. Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Kathleen, where have I seen you before? You seem so familiar.
Gosh. I've been around. I've been a few places.
You've been a few places. Tell all the dickheads, as we call the 5 Games for Doomsday audience, a little bit about yourself. What do you do in and out of the industry?
Well, I do have a really hilarious, actually, couple episodes for 5 Games for Doomsday that I've been on.
You've actually been on 5 Games for Doomsday.
Yeah.
And
twice.
you've announced your 5 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can still tell you those too. Get ready. Let's see. I had Survive, Escape from Atlantis, Le Havre, Catan, something else.
Tirnanog and Sakatsu.
And Eat Poop You Cat. I do know that was the 5th.
Eat Poop You Cat. I don't think anyone has to take Eat Poop You Cat. You just need a pencil.
But it was one of those things where I definitely wanted to hang on to it. Like I thought, Iron Dragon.
Iron Dragon.
My favorite turn game. So
Iron Dragon and Eat Poop You Cat.
Yes.
Those are the polls that define an Omni gamer.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a teacher, game designer. If you are interested in teaching game design, all of my resources can be found for free at KathleenMercury.com. I make no money from it, and the good folks at Weebly and Square make it more and more expensive as time goes on for me to host it myself. So,
I was going to say you're such a professional plugging your thing, but number one, you don't make money off it. And number two, you're supposed to do that at the end of the interview.
Well,
the end.
Okay. Well,
I feel like you're telling me something.
That's a thing. That's a thing that I have.
So you are recently relocated to the United States after an episode across the pond. Do you want to tell the folks a little bit about your experiences in Bucharest?
Yeah. So I taught for 2 years in Bucharest, Romania. What did we know about Bucharest? I knew Nadia
I knew it was spelled with a CH.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is Americans pronounce it Nadia Comăneci, but in Romanian it's not Nadia Comăneci, because if it ends with an I, it's like you don't say it as a...
Oh, it's like a magic E in the English, right?
Yeah.
You say come and came, you don't say kami and kamey.
Right, that's correct. That's correct.
I'm really glad I chose that word to make the example. Ooh.
Yeah, that and Dracula. And
Dracul.
Yeah. But the funny thing, so Bram Stoker saw Bran Castle. Never actually had been there. And so we took students on a field trip, and one of the places we took them was Bran Castle. And the tour guide there, I loved her so much because she had that very like a very dry sort of Romanian, sense of humor. And we've got all the kids lined up, and as she's got the kids there now, she's like, now this is all bullshit. This is not the house of Dracula. We're like, yeah, we know, but we are still taking our children through this museum. Thank you. So yeah, I taught for 2 years at the American International School of Bucharest, Romania. It was a great time. And then I moved from there to the incredibly rural Humboldt County in Northern California. So it's been...
Yeah, it's a cultural whiplash, cultural jet lag, if you will.
Yeah. And Humboldt's hilarious, man. Like there's hippies and like the most environmentally conscious gun nuts up there. Like it's super fun. Like the farmers market's just a big party every Saturday. It's great.
Now, before you went off to Bucharest, I recall you had a game published.
I did.
It was called Grease Lightning, if I recall.
Yeah, Grease Lightning from WizKids. It came out in 2021, so when all the cons were closed.
It wasn't the best time to release a game.
It was not the best time, but I'm really proud of the game. I'm so happy that it came out. It came out during COVID. And so, yeah, that was great. I've got a game coming out either late 2024 or early 2025 from Sinister Fish called Tulip Season, which is a cozy game, but you're making the tulip fields of the Netherlands and claiming areas by placing little windmills on that. And that's a co-design with the lovely Josh Lobkowitz of Gray Fox Games.
I didn't realize that was a co-design with Josh, who himself moved to Albania and now to Italy, I think.
Because I know they were working on Italian citizenship.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
Cool. I didn't realize he was moving there. Yeah. And Albania was really interesting too, because again, what do you know about Albania if you're not Albanian,
Honestly, nothing other than a Simpsons episode.
Right. It's like Greece.
It's like Greece, which is what the Albanians will tell you.
I'm sure they would love to hear that.
They're very proud of that.
Love to hear that.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Speaking to your educational background, what's the difference between designing a game or using game design in the classroom versus designing a game for the hobby market?
Well, for me, I taught game design for 15 years to kids. And in doing so, I began designing with them. And that's how I became a game designer. And so for me, even though I'm not doing that full time now the way that I used to, my experience is definitely still informed by that. I mean, I definitely make games that are more, if not necessarily like kid games, but certainly kid-friendly games. And kids can play a lot. I mean, a lot of kids can play almost any game out there with the right teach and support from parents. But when it comes to how I approach it, yeah, there's really not too much of a difference. In fact, I really miss being able to do like 15 play tests in a week.
Right. Because when you play with kids.
Right. And it's an important, of course, the first time they see a game play tested, it's me play testing one of mine with them. So it made them a lot less scared of the process. And that's an important part. Plus to show them that this is an authentic experience. I will say another downside actually is that I don't have the same schedule and sort of not pressure, but continuous process of working on it. Okay, now I need to have something else. And when you're doing it on your own freelance, it's a lot easier to get busy, life, do other things, and all of a sudden you realize it's been 3 weeks, 3 months since you looked at a certain project. And so I do miss that aspect as well. I think playtesting with kids, I did a great episode, speaking of podcasts, with my great friend Pam Walls. She has a YouTube channel, and there was, again, the magic number 5. It was 5 lessons learned from playtesting with kids. And I mean, I know I'm on it, but I think
give us one lesson. Like, you can't give all 5 of them away, but give one lesson away.
Kids are the worst playtesters. They're the worst in that their knowledge in gaming tends to be fairly limited. Like I'd have a student say, well, I never played a game about space before, so I made one about space, right? Like, okay, adorable, right? But also their ability to be completely unfiltered in terms of, what would be fun. Like so many of their ideas are just crazy out of whatever. But certainly in Grease Lightning, one of the people credited as a student, because I had a problem that I was struggling with for months. months I had a problem, and a student, I was talking with him about it. I was walking him to his next class because we're talking about it, and he looks at me and said, if you do blah blah blah, then that might work. And I looked at him, I was like, that's going to do it, And so I had another student come up with something for a big dexterity game I have called Dirty Birdie, and he just picked up a couple components. He's like, what if you did this? And I was like, I know that's going in the game forever.
Well, Kabuki Kid says, I'm sure kids will also go wild trying to break a design.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about one of the craziest experiences you've had with a kid breaking a design.
Well, the thing is with kids is they can be really, really emotional. And so I think sometimes when a kid gets really upset about something, if they're really trying to screw each other over, they're going in hard, And so I can't think of any particular example in particular with them breaking a game necessarily, but they definitely can show you what the limits are in terms of the rules as you have presented them, and then figuring out, then I can do this and I can do this, which is really, really great. Most playtesters are really lovely and supportive, and they play by the rules you tell them. And kids are like, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to push this button. You're like, wow, I didn't know you could push it that many times. But there
Well, it's funny because they have the so little frustration tolerance sometimes, but also so much appetite to frustrate others.
Oh yeah. And that's the other thing too. Kids are way more willing to when they're designing games, they are draconian. I banned event decks from their designs because it was like the blue player will lose all of their resources, go back to start, and pay me their lunch money. It's like, oh, okay, let's how about they have to move back like 3 spaces? Let's not mathematically eliminate them from the game. But the thing is like even the kids that would have that happen to them, they'd be like, that was hilarious. And I was like, whew, you are not an adult gamer.
So Ben has been gone for some time now. I think we're safe to start airing the dirty laundry. Give us the lowdown. How do you know Ben? What do you want to warn the viewers about?
Warn the viewers about Ben that
there's only 3 viewers. The listeners don't care.
That they've already known. I mean, I just hate how funny he is to talk to. Oh no. I mean, that was one thing that was really nice for me when I was in because Ben became a friend because I'd been on his podcast and we met in person. We just had a great time. And so with when I would go to Essen, when I would go to UK Games Expo and other places, I went to Berlin Spielcon,
Berlin Brettspielcon.
Berlin Brettspielcon. I even have the game bag and I'm forgetting the real name of it. But we had a great time hanging out. And so when I found out that he was a special guest here, I live like 8 hours away now, and I was like, that doesn't matter, I'm going. So be mad if you want, but he's the reason why I'm here. Look at all these lovely folks. They don't even realize they're on a live stream. Look, they're just living their lives. Aren't they sweet?
They're living their best lives. Do you
Best
remember
lives.
when we were at UKGE?
Mhm.
That was when I first met Ben in person, and I actually roomed with him.
Oh, right.
And I'll never forget, we were online for drinks at one of the hotels.
Oh, my God, that was so funny.
And it was taking like a really long time.
It was taking so long. And one of my friends, Morgan Dontonville, Catan Studio, we see you, buddy.
Morgan Dontonville. By the way, it was Morgan Dontonville who said the best number of games to have at the end of a con if you're a publisher is 1.
Right.
Because then
Right.
we referenced it before, but I didn't name check Morgan. But now
Yeah.
that you have, I thought I'd bring the viewers.
Yeah, well, Morgan asked for a Cosmo, and they had to look up what was in the recipe
Right, a Cosmopolitan, perhaps the most popular cocktail on the face of the planet.
in America, but not there. Not in Birmingham.
I
No,
mean,
they had-
certainly
they had-
not at that bar in
No,
Birmingham.
certainly not. They had to look up every single ingredient, and then they had to figure out how to price
All
every
3 of them.
Yeah, they had to price each one. And the best part was, and this is taking a while, but the guy behind Morgan began just shaking and shaking. He's like, I just want to get a beer. I just want to get a beer. So and so then when it was my turn, I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna order a triple, because then that way I'm saving myself 2 trips in this very long line. And the guy there, he was like, oh no, ma'am, the most we can sell is a double. And I was like, okay, well, can I buy a single and a double? And he's like, yes. And I was like, great.
Can I get them in one glass?
Right. No, what he did was he poured the two, and then he looked at me and kind of looked to the side, and then poured it into the same glass and then handed it to me. And I was like, whoop, look at you, criminal.
See, and this is the difference between me and you, because you said, okay, well, I can't have a triple. Can I have a double and a single? Whereas what I would have said is, great, can I just have two doubles?
That's true.
No, but I took a similar lesson because I understood that we weren't dealing with the A or even the B or C team at this particular bar, and so I thought I'll have a gin and tonic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's the thing, right? Kabuki Kid's giving us a hard time. He's like, oh, you Americans and your frou-frou drinks. No. I am a cultured man of the world, and when I am in a foreign place, I order the drinks native to that land, a gin and tonic. And I indeed received a small glass of gin and a 1-liter bottle of tonic.
We're talking about UK Games Expo when Morgan ordered the Cosmopolitan, and the guy was like,
Oh my God, that bar
behind
was
him.
an absolute disaster. Anyway, Kathleen, I'm chucking you off now.
All right, I'm getting chucked off. Is that a British term for something naughty?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Bye.
So here we are, RageCon. We are here with the award-winning designer of. Has it won any awards?
Nominated
For?
Dice Tower
Right.
Award for small publisher.
Excuse me. The award-nominated designer of Lunar Rush. So, my first question is the most important question. How the fuck do you deal with your brother?
Well, it helps that I've known him his whole life because he's
Right.
the younger one,
Right.
right? And I'm the older one, so that thoroughly helps. And until recently, being older was an advantage. It's getting to the point now being older is not the advantage.
Oh my God, it
this
stops
may not-
being an
this may
advantage.
Stop being advantage.
There's a pivot point, right?
This may be going downhill for me, but
So-
up until this point, being older has been an advantage.
So tell us about Lunar Rush then, because it's been, and it's not just William being a dickhead and pimping it everywhere. It's been quite a success, no?
Well, I don't know the numbers, but
Who publishes it?
Dead Alive Games, two great guys, Bernie and Brendan.
Yep.
They're small publishers, fantastic guys, did a fantastic job with it, and have spent a lot of time and energy and everything trying to make sure that it gets out. And it's hard to get the word about from small publishers.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a tough market. What was the question?
How successful has it been?
I think well enough that we're going to do an expansion. I can say
Nice.
that.
Yeah,
We're doing
yeah.
an expansion. So the expansion is going to add a 5th player. The game's 1 to 4 now. It will go to 1 to 5 with expansion. And what everybody loves, super asymmetric factions is coming in the expansion. Right now, you can add a tint of asymmetry, but this expansion will completely make them super asymmetric. Totally like what you expect in most games.
And how difficult is that to design? To asymmetry and to have it balanced?
Well, that's the hard part, the balance.
Yeah.
The design is easy
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to work.
Right.
It's when they go and balance it, especially in a strong euro, right? A full euro, no luck, no Ameritrash, no dice chucking,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It has to be balanced. And not only balanced between the asymmetric factions, but then back to the original normal faction, if you will.
Sure.
So that definitely takes a lot of just plays, repetitions. And then, of course, there's math behind the scenes, right? Spreadsheets trying to figure it out. And that's the one thing that's always amazed me. Mathematically, these are equal, and no one thinks they're equal.
Right.
So they're not really equal.
Right.
So you have to alter them. But, yeah, the ideas were pretty easy. The
I think-
balancing's hard.
I think it's really interesting because I'm designing my first game at the moment. And it's a very simple game, but it's really interesting.
Simple games are the hardest.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have any experience, but the point is, I think what's interesting is that, as you say, it's like that thing, right? It's like that thing. If you set your music player to be truly random, it feels less random than if you set it to deliberately play different things, because randomness results in clumping, right? So it's that idea that this is perfectly mathematically fine. But if the perception of it is that it isn't, it might as well not be, right?
Perception is reality.
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Right? You think if the office thinks that boss is unfair, the boss is unfair,
Right, exactly.
whether they're fair or not. And so you have to deal with the perception. You have to balance that, right? That the mathematically this is equal, and no one thinks it's equal. Everyone thinks that's the better choice. Then you have
Right.
to weaken that choice or sweeten the other, right? You have to.
Exactly. So you're demoing I've ripped you away from demoing a prototype at the moment. What's this new game?
This new game is so unsigned. So any publishers out there, by all means, it's called. As Will will tell you, I come up with the worst names. Luna Rush, before Bernie and Brendan got their hands on it and came up with the good name of Luna Rush, was titled Moon Mining.
Okay, nice.
So I have awful names. This one's called Fantasy Scout. It's a card-only
You
game.
like a generic title, don't you?
I want to work with my publisher.
Right.
I really do. I want the publisher to come in and bring something. Because if I was just bringing all of it, then I don't need the publisher.
Right.
I want those ideas, that thoughts. And so I do find if I really put a lot of art and a lot of this and a lot of that to it, they don't. It works better for some because then it's a shorter putt to what it could
Sure.
be. But to the real creatives, the real innovators, they don't see room to do anything.
Yeah.
And I want those who are really wanting to think and invest in and be partners with me on these games, because the publisher is absolutely part of the equation for what it turns out to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do keep it kind of generic, but it's my ode to Scout. Actually, I was in Germany on a work trip.
Okay.
I took Scout with me because there were non-board gamers with me, and we were playing it at the beer halls and everything else, Scout. And I left Germany. I said, I want to make my kind of a Scout, which is
Right.
not Scout. And I can't make it that simple. So mine has like 400 cards.
Yeah,
and
yeah, sure.
multiple phases, and you build a party, you dive in the dungeon and, get treasure and come back out. But that was my ode to Scout, right? Because there's kind of a bidding mechanic. It's not Scout. You don't keep your cards in the same order.
Right.
But it was what inspired me
Right,
to
of
try to
course.
make this size
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of how it came about.
So just to wrap up then, where can we get Luna Rush from?
So Bernie and Brendan are actually, I saw them. They're on Amazon now, Dead Live
Okay.
Games. So you can buy the deluxe on Amazon.
Nice.
I think it's even coming with a sticker that says his Dice Tower of Excellence seal on it now, which is fantastic. Their website also, you can get all the other fun things, the Moon plushie, the real gem and real metal and gem pieces for it. So they have all the accessories and fun stuff there. So I would go Dead Alive Games.
Yeah.
I believe it's deadalivegames.com, and check them out there.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much. And thank you for coming on the stream and everything.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Before the battery dies.
Before the battery, I'm looking at it. It's almost out. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, everybody. This is great. I would have gone on longer, but the battery is almost out. So from Reno, keep it real, Zoes.